Welcome to the Sacred Stream radio podcast. I'm Laura Chandler, and today my guest is astrologer and co-founder of Cosmic RX, Madi Murphy. And we're here talking about her new book, In the Cosmic Zone. Welcome, Madi.
Oh, thank you, Laura. It's such a pleasure to be here talking with you. It already feels like a treat.
Well, it's so great to have you. And, I love to talk astrology, and we've had a Vedic astrologer on, and you are Western sidereal, and there's slight difference, but really we're all talking about the same thing.
Yes.
And it's just a different, I think, positioning of how we're viewing the planets, but it's all heading into the same direction. So if there's anything you want to say about.
Oh, no, I just want to say I'm a Western tropical astrologer. And then I just want to add on too that I am team all astrological wisdom is better than none. So I have had, the Vedic, the sidereal readings, and I always learn something about myself because we're not one dimensional. We're not cookie cutter as humans. So I think that there's a beautiful information to get from all different types and schools of astrology.
Yes. And if I said Western Vedic, I meant Western.
I knew you knew. I just didn't want people to come be like, what?
Well, it's funny to watch people who've known Western and then kind of get Vedic or vice versa, because sometimes your signs change, not all of them, but sometimes they do, depending on their degree, right? And so I've had some Aries get really upset about becoming Pisces, but
that's so funny. That's a very funny sign to choose because it's so right. Aries and Pisces could not be more different, right?
Yeah. But what's interesting is there's always something about both signs that are presenting. So whatever the view is, it's really presenting, because
absolutely
we've got all the signs in us anyway.
That is one of the major things that I want to get across in this book is there's no good sign, there's no bad sign, there's no sign that we should avoid or worse judge, because they all exist within us, baby.
That's right. And this is the book, In the Cosmic Zone. And so I want to start there. What is the cosmic zone?
So the cosmic zone to me is this place of alignment and flow that comes from not just finding, we hear about flow state and times like that and terms like that really feel like more of an outer, you're doing the right things, you're doing the right habits, the right, practical hacks and tips for finding your most productive creative state. It is that, but also it's when you do that mixed with really owning, embodying, and expressing your most authentic self. So it's sort of the outer world and the inner world version of flow state. And I really just stumbled upon this because I was working with people. We could talk about this later, but I was like, ooh, there's some big changes coming. I saw the astrology way 2014 for 2020. I was like, we got to get people ready. We're going to be going through a whole huge shift as a society into 2024, into the next 20 years. And so I started thinking of, what are just these little RXs I can give people every day to show up as their best self, aligned, grounded, feeling regulated, as we show up in this kind of new world we're creating. And I had this amazing, pleasant side effect after working with myself, my friends, my family, my clients, my mentees, where also people started manifesting, having things fall into place, but not in a wish list from the universe kind of a way, but of this way of just being really embodied, really in a place of trust, in a place of magnetism, in a place of able to work with any obstacle or opportunity that life was throwing them, and just feeling really clear. So I was like, ooh, okay. And we started calling it ooh, I think something would happen, a string of synchronicities or some magic, some miracles. And we'd be like, ooh, I think you're in that cosmic zone, baby. And it just kind of caught on from there.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And, I find with astrology that it's a science, and I think some people think, oh, astrology, woo-woo, but it's a science, and it's a way of seeing things. And when you learn the language right? When you learn that language, you can gain some information about yourself, or, not, you don't have to fit into a box, but it
Mm,
may offer some additional information. It can be on the team, right? Of how you're
yes.
navigating the world.
Yes. Yes. That's really well said. And I always think about my husband. He works, in finance. He went to an Ivy League school. He played football there. He's like not really like from the same background I am in. And
Yeah.
he's like always supportive, always appreciative, always respectful, always curious about everything I've ever gotten into. Um, but he said astrology, when I started reading for him or hearing me and my friends talk about it, he said it was the first thing that really like got his attention versus the other work I was doing, the shamanic work, the reiki, the working with crystals or herbs. He's like, whoa. He's like, like this just feels like science, like the study of patterns and phases and cycles. And then we went to a biodynamic vineyard in Sicily, and it was blowing his mind how they work with the moon. So I always think about him because he was such a mirror to me of being like, oh yeah, like there's something that you can kind of like sink your teeth into with astrology that I feel like is really fun for people like myself who really do like to have an understanding of the spiritual world, of higher consciousness, but sometimes like to have it grounded
Hmm.
in something that we can really point to, digest, understand, relate to, study.
Hmm. Yeah. I'll share with you briefly. I had this really intense period, like, not too long ago. And I was like, doing all the things that I do to navigate it. I'm like, this hasn't happened in a long time. Like, why am I feeling like this? And I finally, like, it took me a while. I was like, I need to call this Vedic astrologer I've worked with before. And I'm like, what is going on? He's like,
Mm.
oh, you're in your Mercury moon. He's like, yeah, it's going to be hell for a little while. Oh, that's nice. No, he didn't say hell, but he's like, yeah, everything I was describing. He's like, yep, that's it. That's it. It's this. And then you shift
Mm.
into this. And what I
Yeah.
took away from that was like, that was helpful because it
Yes,
didn't necessarily
exactly.
change what I was experiencing, but
Yes.
it put it in context. Like,
Oh,
there's nothing wrong here. This is a period you have the tools, but it's good to know this is a rough one, this little period of time.
oh my God. I'm so happy you brought that up because I always say, I'm like, there's so many reasons that I love astrology. And one of them is exactly that. Like, it gives us cosmic context, or I like to say, it helps you contextualize so you don't internalize. Because I know for myself, before I understood astrology, I'm like, I've messed something up. Life is over. What did I do? Right. And I would get all in my head. What did I do wrong? Why is this not clicking? Why am I not feeling the same energy I was feeling before? And then I'm like, oh, whether it's just something within the month of like, oh, these are my harder moon days for me, or whether it's in larger like life cycles where I'm like, oh, okay, I'm in my Uranus opposition. That makes sense. And then it helps you from there move on to help you like, okay, now I named it, now I can understand it and externalize it, and yeah, like start gathering tools, and also knowing like it's not going to be forever.
Right, right. Yes. And the same is true. So that's on a personal chart, but you can do that too with the larger chart. I mean, we all probably have heard of Mercury retrograde, or, some of these, some other big ones, oppositions and different things that happen. But, when let's say like Mercury's in retrograde and you're struggling with something like,
Mm,
tech is going down, or you're getting frustrated at the post office, you're like, hey,
yeah.
Mercury retrograde. Well, and
Yeah.
that puts it in context. It's like, don't be in a hurry.
No, totally. I plan my whole life around, the astrology weather, not in a way that's like fearful, but
Hmm.
just help give me guidelines of like,
Yeah.
okay, we just launched this book during Mercury retrograde. So I just knew to prepare to slow some things down, have to double, triple check things when I'm mailing out, books to people. We planned an event. Of course, multiple things went haywire, but again, I was able to prepare for it, even laugh some of it off. And also just know that even like on the more evolutionary, I always like to look at astrology, even that like zoom out. I'm like, oh, of course, this is a Mercury retrograde book because this whole book has been a reflection of my life's journey, all
Hmm.
the people who've been a part of my journey, all the tools and wisdom and things I've learned, all the teachers. So getting to launch this book, it helped me reflect on that. But I also got to reach out to all these people and thank them. And so I was like, oh, that's so cool versus not knowing the astrology. And that first bump in the road happens. And I'm,
Yeah.
the old me would have been like, running ragged on a complete burnout. And then, the post office loses a box of my books. And I would just be like, that's it. Meltdown over, not enjoying this at all. So,
Yeah, it's so helpful. Yeah, it's so helpful. You have developed a system of keys in the book, and that's what the book centers around. Do you want to talk a little bit about the keys?
absolutely. So kind of like what I was just alluding to, there's like the astrology that's a little bit more like literal, like, okay, Mercury, planet of communication, is in this sign, okay, cool. But for me, astrology is such a tool of storytelling for the soul, helping us understand, our past, our present, hopefully align with, our best future. And I realized that no matter who I was working with, myself, people who were day one on their journey or going through a big transit like Saturn return, or people who had very successful lives and careers, but were being called, as we always are, to grow into another version of themselves, there's sort of these universal blocks that we come up against. And I realized that astrology, beyond just understanding ourselves, like, okay, again, my Mercury is here, my Venus is there, is that there's something in each zodiac sign to help us unlock those blocks that we come up against. And it's not in a way, I like to say that this is not astrology that defines you. It's astrology that I hope aligns you. Meaning, if we come up against one of these blocks or you want to understand a different part of your chart, that you can work with this key. There's a mantra associated with it. There's practices, there's storytelling, there's case studies, there's shadow work, journal prompts to begin to not just be like, okay, I am this sign, therefore I am these things. More like, okay, what does this want to open within me? How does this want to help me blossom? How does this help me remember all parts of me? And ultimately, it's about, bringing you back into your divine wholeness, versus like operating out of a place of lack or comparison or self-doubt, fear, all those things that creep in the way. So I could definitely go through the 12 keys, but that's sort of like the higher overview. And again, my intended,
Yeah.
a message and medicine of the book.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit before we started the show about how we're all the signs we are all of the signs are in us to some degree or other, more or less. And so we're there's always something operating. It may not be just your sun sign or your ascendant. It can be, any number of things. And so how do you address that in the book?
Yeah. So the first thing, and I don't know, I thought this was a quote I read somewhere, but I can't find it for the life of me. So maybe it was a download, but somewhere early on in my astrological studies, I heard this concept that, like, one of the reasons why these tools are so powerful is that when you turn to face the cosmos, and in that the creator, universe, source, spirit, it's like the cosmos turn to face you, which is just by looking at your birth chart, just by wanting to have this understanding, just by picking up this book or a book similar, you're saying, oh, okay, I am something bigger that meets the physical eye. I am something bigger than, what's happening in the mundane level. So first and foremost, just by looking at this book and remembering, oh, I have all 12 keys within me. There's not one person, born who's alive on this planet who doesn't have all 12 zodiac signs in their chart, because your chart is a wheel. And it's actually very similar to a medicine wheel, wherein you're going around every year. The sun, the giver of all life, of the universe, is going through and lighting up a wheel or a section, a spoke of the wheel of your chart. So this book, you can look at it and just be like, okay, I could just read this front to back, like a self-help, self-development, any kind of self-actualizing book, and just realize whatever this lady is talking about, it is within me. Like, I don't have to understand it more than that. If you have a very, introductory level to astrology, or you don't understand astrology at all, just knowing that this is all within you, ready to be awakened. Um, this is the first way to work with the book. The second way is, we go through, right, these zodiac seasons, and in tropical astrology, like right now we're in Leo season, and when this comes out we'll be in Virgo, or maybe Libra season. And a thing that also really changed the game and changed my life is when I just started working with every zodiac season as like getting a unique cosmic assignment to step into more alignment. So instead of trying to do all the self-care, all the self-growth work all at once, where I used to get so overwhelmed and burnt out and discouraged before I even started, I'd be like, okay, it's Virgo season. I should probably edit through some of my stuff. I should probably get a little organized, get into my body a little bit, do a little decluttering, a little detoxing, and kind of get back. It's like that kind of back to school energy.
Mhm.
And so on and so forth. So every key in the book, I write about how it also associates with the time of the calendar year. So
Mhm.
you could read this one chapter for basically, the 28, 30-day cycle, and be like, okay, by the end of the year, go through what I would imagine would be a pretty significant revolution and life glow up from the inside out. Or if someone is listening, the third and final option, if you are more familiar with astrology, you can really read this, um, how to unlock and understand and integrate each one of your 12 houses in your chart and any planets you have there. So, like I said, we all have all 12 signs within us.
Mhm.
But where we have planets or angles, so you mentioned the rising sign, or our midheaven, those are angles. And planets, would be at the luminaries, sun, moon, but the Venus, Mercury, Mars, where we have those, it's like we're kind of doubling down on our homework on Earth School. And this, like, okay, I'm really here. I'm a Virgo sun. I'm really here to understand how to embody a high consciousness of Virgo energy and be really aware of that. And every zodiac sign is an octave. It's a spectrum. There's high and low. There's no good signs. There's no bad signs. There's just a spectrum, and we can run that in a lifetime. I can run a spectrum of high and shadow in a day sometimes,
Yeah.
Virgo.
Yeah.
Um, and the book talks about that. So in the back of the book, in an appendix, there's a few kind of like mad lib, easy to understand ways to understand how these planets want to operate with these keys. So if you want to unlock more love and abundance and a deeper understanding of your values and your self-worth, you can read for your Venus sign key, which
Mhm.
is in the back of the book. Or you can just realize, okay, even if I don't have a planet there, like I keep reiterating, you have that sign somewhere. So for me, this was a game changer with Aries energy, because I'm a Virgo sun, Pisces moon, Cancer rising, which is basically astrological shorthand for being a very lifelong people pleaser, getting very immersed, entangled in other people's emotions and experiences and expectations. I'm also an oldest daughter of four, and I just spent my whole life being like, "It's okay. Is that okay? Am I doing things right?" And my sister, my younger sister, second youngest, is an Aries, and she is bold, and she is so herself and so unapologetic in the best way. And she also sticks up for, when she sees something going down that is not sitting right with her, she says it right away, right?
Mm.
And I always admired that in her, and I was like, oh, I want to be more of that, but I'm such a nerd. Um, and it was understanding that Aries energy, that I have that. It's actually in my 10th house of career, but it's
Mm.
empty there. And I was like, oh my gosh. So when I started understanding that again, it unlocked everything, because it helped give me permission to be like, oh, I do have that in me. It's just, it wants to express itself through my work and my career. And every year during Aries season, I do something to activate that, like some of the rituals in the book. I bring that in, especially into like my career, my work. And
Mhm.
since I've been doing that, oh my gosh, it just feels like, okay, I'm operating on all cylinders again. So working with your chart and each key, if you're comfortable with doing that, is going to be something that's going to help you realize, oh, that sign that I've always admired or maybe judged is
Right.
actually within me
Yeah.
and wants to bring something out of me.
Okay. I love that. I love the idea of working with it in the way that you've described. In fact, I'm gonna check out the Caesarly too, because I think that's a great grounding kind of like, hey, okay,
So
what season
grounding.
are we in? That's really interesting. Thank you. What is your take? Do you know of this astrologer named Caroline Casey? Have you heard of Caroline Casey? You don't have to
That
have.
sounds so familiar. It
Very
sounds so
familiar.
familiar.
Yeah, she's
Yeah, tell
still
me about her.
around. I think she has a program on NPR. It's been around. That was my first introduction. Really, I
Oh, I
moved
love
to
NPR.
California where everybody was talking about astrology, and I was like, "What?" And she had this program on. Really, she's really good. But she talked about this thing that was interesting. And she's Western tropical, and she talked about how signs there are signs where you're in your
Mm.
mature aspect of the sign or your immature aspect of the sign. So it may just be a way of like, how am I evolving in the sign? So the
Mm.
immature, Leos, for example, might be a little egoic.
Exactly.
And the
Exactly.
mature Leos may be like really bringing forward, really important, being seen and able to be seen and able to bring forward important, concepts, for example, or
Oh,
succeed in things.
I love that. Well, I'm gonna definitely do a deep dive on her work, and anyone who NPR is co-signing on has to be fantastic, and you as well. And I love that mature and young, because it's like how it can be when we don't have like a it's like mastery, right? It's like we all know we're new to something, versus when we've done something and we can really have more of an awareness of how we can respond versus just react blindly. And I talk about it in the book. I didn't call it shadow work because I didn't want to like intimidate people or take people on a different track. But I talked about like, when to use the energy of the key. And
Mm-hmm.
then I talked about like when to shelve it, like when to pull it back. Because I do believe that each and every one of our gifts
Mm-hmm.
and the things that make us, our superpowers and the things that we are like just blessings in our chart, if left unchecked,
Yeah.
if we overdo it, can quickly become our burdens. The way we self sabotage, the way we become too much. Even like, the most generous person in the world. It's like, oh, what's wrong with generosity? But it's like, well, all of a sudden, maybe you're over giving, or maybe you're even like meddling into people's things they don't want, right? So even like the best parts of us, if
Yeah.
we don't know when to like, ooh, it's all this like dance with the universe,
Mm-hmm.
it can really create a huge energy drag and lag for ourselves or others. But I love that take of the mature versus young. I'm gonna like use that with a nod to her.
Yeah. Yeah. Check it out. And so I would love to get your take on, just some of the planetary positions of things. Like, so this may be simple, but I think what is your take on our sun sign? Like, what does that represent?
So I love this actually, because sometimes, as we go deeper into astrology, a lot of people are saying we're so much more than our sun sign, which we are,
Yes.
but our sun sign is so important because it is quite literally where we get our power from. It's our solar power.
Mhm.
So I believe that our sun sign is who we are here to become in this lifetime. Like,
Mhm.
this is the version of us that we like signed up for. There's like, okay, to really express ourselves and share our light with the most people, with the most amount of ease and joy and fulfillment for ourselves. We must understand our sun sign. And our sun sign, also by unlocking that key of our sun sign, helps us understand too our vitality, our life force. Because just like you know, the sun nourishes so much, right? Everything on the planet, basically, unless it's like, way like the Mariana Trench, basically everything in our planet like needs and is blessed by the sun. And same as us, when we're living in our like highest consciousness, our deepest relationship with our sun sign, we can bless so many people because we can also show them, oh, this is what this energy can be for you. Let me invite you into it, right? Like to the Leo before, a fully expressed Leo shows us, wow, I can have the confidence to be myself too. I can live from the heart. I can share my art with the world and know that that is my birthright, right? And
Mhm.
also for that person, for you as your key, like I said, your life force. It's how can we do this with the most energy, with feeling the most grounded, regulated, resilient, doing this with joy and presence.
Right?
So our sun sign,
Yeah.
again, it can be so easy to say, okay, I'm a Virgo, but like it's so much more than that. And it's really taken me a very long time into my astrological studies to like truly kind of return back to how important the sun sign is.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Because I'm going to ask you about a few more positions
Let's
too.
keep going.
And what about the ascendant? What's your take on that?
So the ascendant to me, it's also called your rising. And I do think about this as quite literally like how you rise to meet new occasions. And, it's the part of you that it's kind of like your aura that you're
Mm.
giving off before
Yeah.
people even talk to you. And so what people ask, why is that important then? Why do I need to know it? Well, if Laura, we talked about your rising sign being Libra in Western. It's like if people think about you or they see you and their first impression of you is that you're someone who is very harmonious and very gracious and diplomatic, and maybe someone who brings beauty to things or is very relational, or like there's just something consciously or subconsciously where someone's gonna be like, oh, like we have to do a collaboration. Let's do it with Laura, or we need to make something, bring something in, and maybe you do it in a more artful way, a more elegant, elevated way. They're going to think of you. And when we know that, we can be like, okay, that's what I'm exuding out in the world. So let me really lean into that. Let me really trust that. Um, and I think also the rising sign is important because it filters your whole chart because it's the horizon line of your chart. So therefore, you are a Libra-ish Sagittarius. You're a Libra-ish Gemini moon. And so we really want to understand that key. We want to understand that sign because it's going to kind of infiltrate our whole chart. And then the last thing I'll say about that is we want to really, really understand the opposite of our rising sign, because our rising sign can be where we subconsciously go too far, do too much, because again, it's how everyone sees us and perceives us, but that's only the beginning of our story, right? So for you to understand Aries energy is actually really important because you're like, yes, we will do this, we will find a solution, but also me. Like
Mm.
interdependence and independence, because sometimes we can feel our life, we're spinning our wheels or we're feeling kind of overdone. It's like, oh, look to the opposite sign. It's like a seesaw to bring you back into balance in your chart.
Right. So would you say like a Libra can, I don't want to say like overgive or be over interrelating and not centering in the me?
Yes, like a Libra definitely, like what's in that, lower frequency can be like, oh, everything is like too much of trying to find the win-win-wins, or doing too much for other people, or being too passive of or I'd like to say being the peacekeeper instead of the peacemaker, because it's like, okay, well, as long as everyone's happy, but it's like, well, what about you, and what do you need? And no matter how interrelational we are as beings, we all have a part of us that just needs alone time or needs to do something for ourselves, by ourselves.
Yeah. Well, it looks like I'm going to have to go unlock that Aries key. Thanks, Maddie. um, okay. And the moon sign.
So your moon sign, oh, I love the moon sign. I have so many, highlights of my love affair, my lifelong love affair with astrology. But learning my moon sign is where I think I had one of my first ahas as an adult, because your your sun sign, like I said, is who you are here to embody. It can be like your physical self, who you are out in the world, who you're learning to become. But your moon sign, that's like your day one coding. That's your emotional self, your inner self, everything from your inner child to your maybe most intuitive or emotional, like inner landscape. And your moon sign, is like very much, I think about it kind of like you're airing your tires. Whereas if you have everything else is great, but you're not tending to your moon sign, things are going to feel hard to get going, hard to get flowing. And your moon sign is also probably who you want to learn about. So that way, when you are, tense, tired, triggered, hangry, your moon side's going to come out and you want to know, oh, this is what I need. And when we do that, we can learn to better articulate our needs and, of course, advocate for them. But just keep things more regulated and more resilient. And so, your moon sign, your inner world, what I love about it, again, it's all permission, it's validation. I've talked to, Gemini moons like yourself and been like, no, one of your core needs is to be curious and to ask questions or to have a great conversation or chat up like a stranger, at the supermarket. To talk, to yap, and it's like, okay, these aren't things sometimes we can dismiss or diminish our own needs. But when you see them just black and white of like, oh, my inner world needs that, then we can, what I hope would be, stop apologizing or downplaying for those things and just start doing them for
Mhm.
ourselves.
Really helpful. Yeah. Can you tell me anything more about Gemini moon?
Yes. So
Because I have
Gemini
a little
moon.
aversion to my moon sign for some reason.
Oh, we do. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, because sometimes Gemini, I have to just say a PSA, a love note to my Geminis and my Scorpio placements. Society really loves to drag on those two signs. And my biggest and best teachers in my life are Geminis, and my biggest ride or dies in my life are Scorpios. So I always like to say, I will fight anyone who drags those signs. But um, throw down,
Yeah.
behind the elementary school. But I think Gemini sometimes gets a bad rep because Gemini, it's a mutable air sign. So in the lower consciousness of Gemini energy, it can be like Gemini energy can be sort of like speaking out of both sides of the mouth. It's the represented the twins, right? Castor and Pollux. And it's like, but really in the best way, Gemini is here to question things, to turn things on its head, to sort of learn about relation and connection and curiosity, and to like elevate us from there. And I think Gemini, as this air sign, it like brings fresh air into things that are feeling boring, stagnant, outdated. And so for you as a Gemini moon, things that can really ground your Gemini moon is like, okay, make sure we don't overcommit to too many things. Make sure we don't say yes because Gemini moon, it's mutable air. It's like, ooh, more is more. I want to say yes to everything. And then that's where we could be like, okay. And that with the Libra rising, you're like, wait a minute, I can't physically be in all these places at once. Or why did I say yes to all of that? So just making sure your yeses are really yeses and being okay with sometimes your no's. And then Gemini moon, give yourself permission to change your mind if you need. But really doing things, like this podcast is such a great example of your Sag, Sun, Gemini moon, because Gemini and Sag is the axis. Every sign and its opposite sign have an axis. And in that axis, there's so much to learn. There's so much to understand within ourselves. And the Gemini Sag axis is the storytelling axis. It's like Gemini moon is curious. They want to talk. They want to learn. They want to like listen to people. They want to learn new ideas, new words, new concepts. Oh, that's so cool. And then Sag wants to tell those stories and share them and share the lived experience beyond just even like things you read about and facts and ideology is more about like what's the lived experience behind them and how can those stories inspire other people to go out and live their truth. So within you, I love that you're doing both of this. And one of my biggest self-care things for Gemini moons is to like really follow like your curiosity. It's a superpower. It's like
Mhm.
your intuitive superpower. The strings that you want to pull on, the rabbit holes you want to go down, the questions you want to ask that no one else is asking, is like just trust that. Just trust it, like and see where that wants to guide you. And also to have like fun. I think that Gemini moons are very playful and they're at their best when they get to be a little like mischievous and a little youthful. And last thing I'll say is that I think Gemini moons have the gift of eternal youth
Mm.
because of that curiosity.
Yeah.
Because, right, like nothing I think makes you older in life than like ceasing to be curious, right?
Right. Thank you. That's so interesting. I really appreciate that. Um, Tell me about Saturn.
Okay, so Saturn is
I don't
the
mean to throw all this at you. So
no, I love this. I love talking about the planets as to me, I really look at them as these like kind of galactic interpretations of almost like spirit guides, like here to teach us something through our chart about ourselves. And Saturn is really here to teach us about how to take radical responsibility for ourselves, how to live in integrity. And Saturn can help us understand everything from where we might be clearing some kind of karma from our lives, from our lineage, or to where we have to have better boundaries with ourselves or others. But here's the thing that I think a lot of people get wrong about Saturn. Saturn is not doing any of those things to punish you. Saturn wants you to have boundaries so you can enjoy your life more. Saturn wants you to clear karma so you can be free and liberated. Saturn wants you to take radical responsibility for your life so you can live in your authentic expression versus outsourcing your power to everyone around you. Saturn is going to say, hey, the Saturn whispered to me, right after my Saturn return, I got the download of like, oh, I've resisted structure in my life for so long because I'm a free spirit and I had an aversion to growing up, whatever, all the stuff, right? Authority, all that challenging, all that traditional systems. But I realized that it was just making me feel really leaky. And I'm like, oh, structure can actually be really supportive to living a life that's free. And in fact, you need it. And that discipline is just the act of being like a disciple to yourself. Like, oh, I really care about my work, my art, my health, my body, my relationships. So I'm going to show up tending to them, not like this like endless drag work of being punished, but more of like the tending that you have to do to a garden, right? Of like,
Mhm.
of course I need to like come back to this, but I can do it lovingly and I can do it tenderly. And Saturn rules like the P's, I think, like perseverance, patience, pauses, because Saturn will slow things down. But Saturn also rules payoffs and profits of like, okay, if you do those things and you don't try to rush them and you trust the path you're being led down when you're especially in a Saturn cycle, like your Saturn return,
Mhm.
or every 7 years we go through a Saturn cycle, we can see that, oh, we're about to perhaps gain something that we've been working towards for a while.
Mhm.
And then the last thing I just want to say quickly is an image that I think really helps people shift their relationship to Saturn is that we normally think of Saturn as this punisher, right? This
Yeah.
like, and sometimes he'll be a little honest with us, like, get that's not serving you, stop. And we can think of Saturn as a taskmaster, and he is that too. But I think about Saturn as a trellis. Like I have these beautiful, blooming vine mandavillas on my deck. And if they don't have support, if they don't have a trellis, they just start to flop, right? And everything, they die. And so it's like to support that fullest bloom of this gorgeous plant, I need to keep building out the trellises, right? To have something to hold on to support it. And I think looking at Saturn as that for me
Yeah.
helped shift this sort of old, I would say outdated, it feels very like patriarchal narrative that Saturn is like punishing us, right?
Yeah. I really appreciate that. And I kind of threw that out at you and I didn't preface it with the idea that Saturn, I don't know if it gets a bad rap, but it is seen as like you described as the punisher, as like, ooh, Saturn, as opposed to Jupiter, like, woohoo. You know. So and I have a very strong Saturn in my chart and it may be exalted, I'm not sure. Can't remember now, but I know that it has taught me a lot. It is definitely I feel it, especially in relation to like Sag and uh and Gemini, we're like kind of like,
Yes.
hey, let's hang
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Fixed. So, but Saturn, yeah, when you work, it's just like when you work with any of the planets, they are teachers in a way. And,
Absolutely.
I like that how you're saying like, it's, you're listening to them, you're listening to, and they
That's how
all
I
have
feel.
something to teach and ways of supporting you. And Saturn, sure. discipline can feel harsh, but discipline is, and it's maybe not the best word because I always think of corporal punishment, but
I know.
it's a structuring, right? And it's a ground. It's giving you ground,
Ground.
stability and
Yes. Yes.
consistency. Discipline is a
Yes.
consistency, like if you meditate every day or if you work out every day or if you, eat, those kinds of things, right?
Exactly. I love that. And you actually do feel so grounded. Like when you said you were a Sag Gemini in the beginning, I was like, wow, Laura must be doing her work because you get to hold all the Sag Gemini energy, but it's not like, overcoming you where you're just like, it's like, and I think that Saturn for all of us holds a key to, again, like having the capacity and container to feel really grounded in our charts, in ourself. And usually it's helping us step into some sort of leader, teacher, sage role for ourselves also.
Yes, yes. Is it okay if I ask you about one more set of
Yeah.
okay. North and south nodes.
Ooh, my favorite.
Yeah.
My favorite. I think when I was starting to learn astrology, I was like, where do I focus? There's just so much going on in a chart. Like,
Yeah.
and I got a Vedic reading and they talked about, right, the Rahu Ketu of it all. And I was like, whoa, this is so cool. I also like love, they equate it to the dragon. I love dragon energy. But so, in my more Western tropical astrology and then learning through some more shamanic astrology, the North Node, South Node is really what I always come back to with all my clients and mentees. So your North Node is like what is in your soul's GPS in this lifetime. Like this is your soul's purpose, capital S, capital P. And I say that because it's well beyond your work. I think a lot of people hear soul's purpose. It's like they think about career, and
Yeah.
that is maybe a part of your purpose for some people. But we were not birthed. We were not born. We were not born out of cosmic stardust to like labor. Like it's like
Right.
that's not like that's so much
Right.
like
Right.
bigger than that. Like the
Right.
universe is like dream bigger. Um,
Right. Yeah.
it's more about like how are we meant to embody and experience this human life in a way that where we're challenging ourselves to healthy growth at edges, and I think a lot about the North Node, South Node is quite literally the South Node is our comfort zone. I talk about in the book our comfort zone, like our South Node is, in my opinion, a lot of what we came into this earth with, like
Mhm.
from past lives or maybe our family. It's like our programming, our coding, like we got this, we're really good at it. And we're usually living our lives until around the Saturn return time, like 28, 30, very much in our South Node sign. And these are in axis, these are in the opposite sign. So for my South Node is Sagittarius. And
Mhm.
I very much relate to Sag, and I was actually like ready to marry a Sagittarius right up until 2 weeks before my Saturn return. Without knowing it, didn't know it was happening. But if astrology isn't real, then why? Called off my wedding and really started to embark on a different journey of questioning kind of everything. And that's what I talk
Mhm.
about as the Gemini key in the book is like questioning, just being curious. Why? Who says? Why does it have to be that way? Right. And just getting, and I went on a huge hunger for information, which led me here to the more esoteric studies. But so for all of us, it's like we can take that South Node and there's nothing wrong with it.
Mhm.
Like my South Node is in Sag. It's not like I
Yeah.
don't love a Sag.
Yeah.
My sister's a Sag. I love travel.
Yeah.
I love cool stories. Like, I'm not saying I'm not allowed to do those
Yeah.
things, right? But it's like, I like to think about it as a visualization of like, okay, I have all of this baggage, a little bit of my South Node.
Yeah.
How do I take the best parts of that, the best parts of that, kind of transmute or understand some of the shadowy things and
Mhm.
like pack up those best parts in a little tiny carry on, all that baggage turn into a carry on or a little like rucksack, like in a
Mhm.
Disney cartoon,
Yeah.
and start embarking to the wild, unknown frontier of what it means to live in my North Node. And for a lot of people,
Mhm.
like I don't have any other planets in Gemini. I have my Chiron, my wounded healer there.
Mhm.
So the Gemini energy is not in me like my Virgo or my,
Yeah.
Mars in Sag. So I had to really consciously keep pulling like a like a poster that wants to keep rolling up on itself. I had to keep stretching away from the Sag South Node and study Gemini North Node energy. That's why I'm cracking up. You
Mhm.
said it before, because I'm like, I'm in a lifelong study of what is, actualized Gemini energy about. And for me, I had a lot of wounds around my intelligence, my words. I mean, I grew up in school in like the advanced classes, but I always felt like a fraud being there. I stutter, I stammer, I don't know how to put all of my Pisces moon understanding about life. I have never understood how to put it into words clearly
Mhm.
until I started to be like, oh, that's part of my life's journey. And the North Node Gemini is like, Gemini is here to be relatable to people and break it down into digestible doses. And that's been a lot of my life's path. Now, having a podcast, a book, like
Mhm.
if you told 21-year-old me that, I'd be like, what? Like, I didn't even know how to articulate my feelings.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
to a boyfriend at the time, if he like hurt my feelings, I would just be like, like run away. So,
Right, right, right. So
so your North Node is going to ask you to choose discomfort, but in the name of your highest growth. And the journey of going into your North Node, I actually think is one of your biggest cosmic zone shifts. So there's a little blurb in the back of the book about it, but I do encourage people to learn theirs and just start using it as like a cosmic compass when you come up to those crossroads in life and be like, is this decision feel like a South Node comfort zone, maybe even the fear-based decision, or is this a North Node cosmic zone faith-based decision?
Mhm. So interesting. Very helpful.
Yeah.
Well, this podcast episode is going to come out sometime in September in our Virgo, as you said, Virgo Libra season. And we talked a little bit about what's coming up just
Mm-hmm.
generally. And, I think, yeah. So what's coming up generally, it'll be eclipse season, right? So
Mm-hmm.
what do you want to share about what we've got going on kind of into September, October,
Yeah. So
and beyond?
September and October is going to be no other way of saying it. It's just gonna be a portal. It's a
Mhm,
portal of energy.
mhm,
And I mean that in the most grounded, pragmatic way I could put it. So September 7th, we're going to have a full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces. And we're going to have on September 21st a new moon solar eclipse in Virgo. And this Virgo season is going to be very interesting because we're going to have not one, but two of these sort of new moon and Virgo activations, which normally in a zodiac season, you have one new moon, one full moon. So we're going to be being asked, all of us, to really do some major, like, decluttering of our life, so to speak, and to really get sort of serious about either our sacred self care or our sacred work of being of service. And for a lot of people, it might be both,
mhm,
because Virgo really wants to do that. Virgo is the pragmatic priestess, the servant based leader. She is like the boss witch, like she knows how to heal, but also how to like bring it all down to earth, right? And so for all of us, especially between the 7th and the 21st, we're going to be asked to, I would say, toggle two keys in my book that I talk about. One of them, the Virgo key, is practice makes magic.
mhm.
And the Pisces key is I trust. And, just to give people a little like cliff notes on those keys, the practice makes magic is you're going to feel maybe something happened in Leo season in August, end of July, that like activated something in your heart that's really important to you, whether that's an idea, a project, art, or whether that's just something you're ready to go after, you're ready to take up more space in life with, or ask or desire. And then Virgo season is going to ask you to start before you're ready, to just take those first steps. And it can be messy. And guess what? It's going to be, because nothing we do day one is the finished product, right? We don't get the diploma day one. We got to just start where we're at. And that's a big key, and practice makes magic. And like you said, the consistency of the earth signs is one of their major gifts, is that We don't have to, compare our day one to someone else's day 1000.
Mm.
We just show up and we keep showing up. And that practice is what will bring in magic in our life. But there's a double meaning to this because Virgo is mutable and, of course, has multiple things it wants to say. The practice makes magic for each of us is like, what is your practice that grounds you, that helps you feel clear? Is this a spiritual practice? Is it a physical practice? Is it the way you cook food for yourself? Is it drinking more water? Is it sitting at your altar? Is it going to yoga? Is it doing a daily nature walk? I want everyone this September to think about one thing that they do that is just theirs, that offers some sort of support and scaffolding for themselves so they can really grow and advance and expand and evolve into this next version of themselves that this eclipse is activating. And then on the other end of that, that spectrum is Pisces over there, just flowing, divine channel. Like Pisces eclipses is like opening up. Just get ready for life to feel like a little bit of a psychedelic trip. You're gonna be like, what is that? Am I making that up? No. So I want you to pay attention to the signs, the symbols, the synchronicities, the chance meetups, the breakthroughs. And that's why, the mantra for that, the key for that is I trust. The Pisces eclipse is going to ask us in some way to unclench our grip on control, on how we think things have to be,
Mhm.
so we can actually let them be the way that is in actually way more alignment with our divine assignment, and maybe even happen more easily, miraculously, magically than our little itty bitty human brains can imagine in this moment. But we have to do the unclenching. We have to be like, okay, like, universe, I trust you right now, and I can just like see if there's some things that are not happening as fast as I want. That's okay. If
Mhm.
there's things that are abruptly being rerouted or canceled, or if I'm having blocks, can I allow those to be blessings, because I'm trusting that redirection as some sort of protection.
Mhm.
And that's going to be a big theme for September. And eclipses carry on 2 weeks before and then 2 weeks after, and then we start to really feel the effects for 6 months. So we're going to be feeling this well into October. And then October, I'm looking at the astrology, I'm like, October is just gonna be a big integration, I would say,
Mm.
month
Okay.
from the eclipses and what we learn there. And I always think it's just good to, during eclipse season, just sort of take our hands off the wheel a little bit and like let the universe do its thing.
Mm. Okay. I was going to ask you, do you think people could be feeling sort of the effects of coming into the eclipse season even now?
Absolutely. So the time of this recording, it's August 11th, 100%. We just had
Mhm.
the Aquarius full moon on the 9th on Saturday. And that was like the last full moon before we enter eclipse season. And so I like to say, eclipses, they happen in pairs and they remind me of a portal, or like going through a drain, going through the rabbit hole. And to
Mhm.
the drain analogy, where we're at right now is, have you ever seen a humongous swimming pool, like a public swimming pool? And it's like, okay, filled with water. If someone pulls the plug on the drain, it's not going to drain all at once. It's like first we kind of start, the ripples happen on the surface, and then it's like starts to speed up, and then it goes down the drain. The month out from the eclipse is like those little ripples. We start to feel like, maybe we can kind of start to understand what our eclipse story is going to be, or we start getting little hits. And again, nothing about this is us trying to control the future, the narrative, predict, but it's more about like, okay, what do I need to know for
Mhm.
myself so I can meet this moment with the most awareness, right? With the most emotional regulation, with the most trust, but while also being really firm in who I am
Mhm.
and what I stand for, what I want to embody, what are my intentions. So yeah, are you already feeling a little bit of the
Oh yeah.
eclipsey energy?
Well, and that explains it. It might explain it. Yeah, you know. these are such intense times, and they have been for so long. And I think people's nerves are frayed, and but that's
Mm-hmm.
part of the path, right? So, but I'd heard that you could that sometimes you'll feel that the eclipse will start 6 weeks before and last 6 weeks after, and so you're just, and I can understand why 2 weeks before, 2 weeks after are going to be just super intense and in it, really in it. But
In it.
I like your description of like the ripples, like, and that suggestion that is you're getting kind of feeling those ripples, you
Mm-hmm.
can begin to understand what it is you're being asked to work on or where you need to be focused. And that's practical. That's very helpful, and
Mm.
I think I'm going to
Yeah.
do that.
I love that. And then, to your point before about calling up your astrologer, eclipses happen in cycles. So you can look back, like, when was the last like Virgo Pisces eclipse? We, had some, this March, and then we had some last September, and then you can even look back like 9 years ago, 18 years ago. Like
Rom-
you can, that's why I love astrology. Is there's always a little bit of homework, a little like reflecting work to do if we want to understand. Oh, right, like I'm probably going to be again at medicine wheel, like I'm going to be kind of clicking over to this part of my life and my chart again. What
Mhm.
did I learn from last time, or what new tools do I have, or how can I use that you know rear view mirror energy to better understand and focus on my GPS of where I'm going.
Yeah, that's really helpful too. That's really, using the tools in a big way. Um, Maddie, it's been such a pleasure having you
Ah,
on the show.
yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a delightful Gemini moon conversation. You asked I've been on a lot of podcasts, and
Yeah.
you asked some really new, insightful questions that I was like, oh, I'm so happy she asked that. So just mirroring to you some
Oh,
of your
great.
Gemini moon beauty.
I appreciate that. And I want to remind everybody the book is in the cosmic zone. And you also have a podcast. So if people want to get a little bit of kind of, you know, weather,
Hmm.
astrological weather, you're doing those weekly, or how
Hmm.
frequently? Yeah.
Yep. Every Monday, moon day, you could start that Monday morning with me and just get your astrological weather for the week ahead. And this, what I hope is practical, easy to apply language. Again, just so you can live in deeper alignment.
Great. And thanks again for being on the show.
Thank you, Laura. This was a pleasure.